set you free mentally and physically. And it could be physically, you could be in prison. I could be saying something that deals with legal matters that can free you once you go to law library. It could be anything. It could be domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? So when I say the truth that set you free, that's a powerful statement. You know, like again, I would like to say good afternoon to everybody for tuning in. I know you could have been anywhere else, but you here with me today. Hold on a second. You here with me today, so you know I got another good one for you, but I'm gonna wait for some people to tune in. Hit that like button as soon as you come in, or salt that like button as soon as you come in. Hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that share button. So I'm gonna wait for some people to tune in. I'm gonna give it like 2 minutes. You know, I know people at work. I knew people that's at work. Normally I do it at 8 o'clock, but trying to do something new lately, you know? So I'm gonna give it some time. Give it some time. Oh. I wonder how the weather is out there. I wonder how the weather is out there. Shush. I was out there early this morning. The weather was a little heated up. It was different from a couple of days. Last couple of days, the weather been kind of different, you know. I don't know. I call it the sick weather. You could catch the pneumonia, you know. 1 minute it's hot, 1 minute it's cold, 1 minute it's sunny, and it's raining. You don't know. You don't know what to make of it. But I always say, dress warm. Just dress. Be prepared to get too hot. You take what you got to take off, and you put it over your arm. It's better than just having nothing. Now you out there freezing. All right, so let's get right into it. Today I got a good one for y'all. Hit that like button as soon as you come in. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that share button. Today we're gonna talk about the continuation of the Diddy trial. Actually, last week it was heating up. Prosecutions was getting demolished. We actually thought that they had a case when they first brought this together. We heard the RICO. People don't escape the RICO. We heard sex trafficking. We heard prostitution. We heard conspiracy. We heard so many stories that was in the media. We just thought Puffy was fried. But as the case continued on, or better yet, started last week, it took a different turn. The prosecution looked desperate. They was just throwing any kind of witnesses out there, and the witnesses was getting destroyed. The main witness is Cassie. I'll repeat, the main witness is Cassie. So any witness that come up there claiming accusation, don't take it to the social media or Facebook or Instagram, whatever, and run with it, because they're not the star witness. They just talking about domestic violence. They're not talking about nothing else pertaining to those charges. Like I said, the real star of the case is Cassie. She definitely, pays here for the knowledge. She definitely laid her groundwork for that. To me personally, in my opinion, it doesn't hold no weight at all. It does hold weight with domestic violence. And I'm not trying to be biased or anything like that, because I noticed majority of the women is coming at Diddy based on domestic violence. They want him to serve life over charges does not relate to his case. That's how biased they are. They're not even trying to understand the charges. They just quickly to say, put him in jail forever. That's it. You know what I'm saying? They don't really know what's going on. Do I excuse his behavior? Absolutely not. Judging by the case, he's definitely a bad boyfriend, bad husband. Those that been around him dealing in business, he's a bad businessman when it comes to contracts, when it comes to records, making music. Overall, when it comes to contracts outside of that, where he has different businesses, nobody else is complaining. Everybody's just eating. Everybody is getting a fair share deal. You know, it's just so happening that it's unfortunate that you got a lot of entertainers that don't take the time out to read their contracts, and then yet later on start playing the blame game. You know, as we already know, there's history with movies, there's history with other artists coming up, the Hot 97, WBLS. There's history where other entertainers talking about it in the source of the Source magazine, the Double XL magazine, the King magazine, and other magazines where they're talking about bad contracts. So if we already know in this day and time that a lot of record labels give you bad contracts, it's entirely to you and in your opinion, your choice, how you feel you want to deal with that matter. You can't blame the person that gives you the contract and expect them to be responsible for something that you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? So just to get back into the case, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't excuse Puffy for the domestic violence. You know, definitely he's guilty as that. Guilty as charged for assault, and that's all I see. I don't see racketeering. I don't see sex trafficking. I don't see conspiracy. I don't see prostitution. You know, as I said in my other shows, I don't know what's really going on with this case. Like, I don't even understand why the prosecution team will put something like this together. Because when you hear the RICO case, you think about the mafia, you know, Lucky Luciano, Al Capone. You think about the Gambinos. You think about the Lucchese family. You think about the Bonanno family. When you think about RICO, you know what I'm saying? When you hear that in the air, yo, it's a RICO case, you think about that. In this day and time, they're putting it on gangbangers. So now when you hear RICO, you think of gangbanging. Why? Because they have an organized crime. I won't say syndicate, but they have an organized body where 1+1 go do 2 and 2+2 go do 4, which means they go do criminal activities and they get funds from their criminal activities, things that they're doing. Everybody has a position in that empire, and it's not legit. They don't pay taxes. They just do criminal activity to get money. They earn from their actions. This is where you falls under racketeering and conspiracy and RICO. With Puffy, you don't hear that. You hear him paying his security or assistants to go buy drugs for him to get high. You hear about him telling Cassie to go, you know, buy baby oil and Astroglides, and you don't hear about anybody's taking a position to earn any money doing illegal activities. When you hear sex trafficking, the first thing you do is you think about illegal human beings from different countries that's getting kidnapped. Especially in this country alone, you hear about a lot of young females that's getting kidnapped and not returning home. 9 out of 10, these young females or young males are being trafficked. They're being kidnapped. They're being pushed in sex tunnels. They're handcuffed. They're eating every so often. They're not getting a gourmet meal. They can't get up, use a key, and run away. They're told they're never going to see their families again. And when they get to their destination, more than likely, they're being trafficked for a price. We saw it in a lot of movies, especially the movie Taken, when his daughter was kidnapped. That's a form of sex trafficking. Not going on the red carpet, at the Met Gala, at the Source Awards, Vibe Awards, or the Soul Train Awards, not the Grammys, not the Oscars. That's not sex trafficking. That's not kidnapping. That's you having a good old goddamn time. You're in front of the cameras, and you're in front of the cameras, and you getting pictures taken. So we know that this is not a form of kidnapping. We already heard numerous times that Cassie said when she was assaulted, she went to this friend's house, she went to that friend's house, she went to her mother's. She was told that Puffy pay all her bills. She admitted on stand that she went shopping for this award. She went shopping with this friend. She went shopping with that friend. So it busts up the conclusion of she's being held hostage. He's being held without her say so. She's letting us know through her testimony and a lot of witnesses' testimony that she had various times an opportunity to get away from Sean Puffy Combs to go do whatever she had to do. She already admitted that she was in Jamaica. I mean, not Jamaica, excuse me, South Africa doing a movie. She was creeping with Michael B. Jordan. People that's held in a sexual captive situation is not doing that. You don't have a cell phone where you could connect a side booty. She already admitted that she was creeping with Kid Cudi behind Sean Puffy Combs, which means she had a phone. She had the opportunity to call for help. She had the opportunity to do a lot of things, but instead she was creeping. She was going to different places without Sean knowing. She was doing it without being held captive. She was doing it consensual, and she was sleeping with a whole nother man consensual in another whole state consensual, which means she had a passport to fly wherever she wanted to fly. The only time Puffy, she claimed that will hold her belongings such as her car keys and her clothes is if he don't want her to leave the house. You know how when you're a couple and you're arguing, your boyfriend is leaving, you don't want him to leave, you take his car keys. You don't want the female to leave. She came over, you had dropped her off or pick her up to come to your house. You take our house keys, you know she don't got nowhere to go. She ain't got no money. She can't take the train. You got her car keys. I mean, you got her house keys, so she can't go home. So she got no choice but to stay. That's being held against your will. But that's temporary. That's not longevity. You know what I'm saying? We heard that he's also being convicted, or better yet, charged with prostitution. We heard from several escorts that came up there that said they was being called. They was being called by Cassie. She admitted that Sean would pay them. Then therefore that's not prostitution, because Cassie admitted that she wasn't being sold to anybody, and nobody was giving, or anybody was giving Sean money to have sex with her. She admitted on the stand, several people admitted on the stand, that Puffy or Cassie will call the male escorts and they will have their so-called freak offs, and the escorts will get paid. We heard about the escorts saying they got paid. You didn't hear one escort saying that they was called to indulge into prostitution and they had to pay Puffy. See, when you do that, then that means Puffy is the pimp. That means when you're buying prostitutes from different states to engage in sexual activity and they have to pay you from coming across state line, that's sex trafficking. We have not heard that. All we heard was Cassie was looking through photo albums or catalogs where she found what kind of man she was interested in. She made the call. They came over previously or prior to them coming over. Sean Puffy Combs will pay for their services. This is a John who's buying a prostitute for sexual activities. We heard about the freak off parties. We heard he was having sex with this one, that one, males, everything. But when it came down to the case, it came down to cross-examine. We heard that the prosecution, the defense team, Puffy's team, asked Cassie, pro se, what do you consider freak offs? And in her words was not the words that we expected. We thought it was a big orgy going on with 13,000 people having sex. But Cassie, out of her own mouth, says the freak offs consist of me, Sean, and an escort, a male escort, never a female escort, a male escort. So there's that busts all the theory and everything that Gene Deal and Jaguar and all of these people saying about these parties. We heard it from the horse's mouth. Now, if she's lying, then that just goes to show you that she still loves Diddy. She's not trying to bury him. And all she's just talking about is her pain and hurt, which deals with domestic violence. And the prosecution team decided to take all of this evidence that they heard that I just dished out to you and to put it as a RICO case. We heard from Dawn Rashad, we heard her testimony. She gave 13 different testimonies, which means she got caught in 13 different lies about a scene, an abusive scene that happened between Cassie and Diddy when Diddy assaulted Cassie, a scene that Cassie never have corroborated or elaborated or brought up in her testimony during this trial. This is something that Dawn decided to speak on herself, something nobody else testified against, which means, according to us, it's just hearsay. They try to strike that from the record. Actually, they try to strike her from the record, the defense team, because pretty much nobody knows about this story where Sean was upset and wanted some eggs, and everybody was eating eggs, and Sean came down swinging a frying pan to hit Cassie with the frying pan, with the frying pan with eggs in it. Some other testimonies we heard. We just heard she heard the frying pan hit the wall. Another testimony, she said he never threw the frying pan. Another testimony, she said she never saw him hit her with the frying pan. We heard so many testimonies, different testimonies from Dawn. We don't know what's real. But she has a civil case that's pending, a case that she decided to put in the court 10 months after Cassie's settlement. Yeah, after 10 months of Cassie's settlement, she decided it was time to cash in like everybody else instead of calling 911 over a scene she saw. I'm assuming that, her job, which is her career, was in jeopardy if she said anything. So she decided to put her principles and morals to the side and watch a woman who was defensive being abused because she had money on her mind. And many of these other witnesses, or so-called witnesses that claimed they have seen certain things that was questionable by Diddy, chose to not say anything because they felt that their job was more on the line and they didn't care about anybody's abuse or any illegal activity whatsoever, as long as they was in a position to be successful to get that money, which is the root of all evil. So we also heard testimony from Kid Cudi, who we thought that Diddy blew up his car, because he was messing around with Cassie. The only thing we heard that was actually true in his testimony and pertaining to this story is that he admitted that he was sleeping with Cassie. He admitted that he got the red light from Capricorn, who we're going to hear a testimony from today. I haven't gotten that yet. Who called Sean to tell Sean. I thought it was Cassie at first, but it was Capricorn that told Sean told Kid Cudi that Cassie gave Sean the address to his home, and he testified that the cameras in his home was moved. He testified that the camera didn't pick up no figure. In other words, whoever moved the camera, he's claiming the camera didn't catch them. He admitted that the car was set on fire and eventually blew up his 911 porch. He also admitted that there was a broken cocktail that was inside the porch where somebody opened the roof of the car and dropped the cocktail. He admitted that the fire department and the police came on the scene and took statements. He admitted that the bottle that was in the car had a fingerprint on it, and the police did a DNA and a fingerprint test, I believe he said. No, not I believe. They did. And the results came back as a female that dropped the cocktail in the car that destroyed the car. Make it seem like it was just the female that was on the premises that opened the door. He admitted that he believed somebody broke into his house, but yet he left the door open, but it was broken in. I don't know how it was broken in. If the door was open, maybe somebody trespassed, but not broken in. But that was what he said. You see what I'm saying? I told you, once we hear all these stories, but once we get into this case, it goes everywhere, and it goes to a place where you don't expect. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, please. So now we done heard of all this testimony along with the forensic psychologist, Dr. Dawn Hughes, who testified for the prosecution. As of right now, there's a motion to strike her testimony off the record today. And that was put together by Alex Shapiro, one of Diddy's legal team, based on the fact this lady claims she has all of these successful degrees when it comes to being a psychiatrist, a therapist, in civil matters, in domestic abuse, rape cases, and so forth. But yet she admitted to coming on the stand and being hired for $6,000 an hour by the prosecution team, who she has a relationship with over 30 years. She admitted that her testimony was all generalizations. You could see it on my last show where she breaks down the different phases of domestic violence. It is true what she broke down, but she generalized it because she never interviewed Cassie. She never screened Cassie as her therapist, because before you getting on a stand to deal with someone in a domestic violence relationship, especially one who claims to be raped and psychologically messed up, she has to interview them to give the court and us her synopsis on how does she see Cassie should be treated and what made her do the things she did. She has not done that. You already know that in law, when it's a case like that, a psychiatrist has to interview the victim. We see that on Law and Order with the Asian guy. Every time there's a case going on dealing with the special victims unit, when it deals with rape, when it deals with a psychological mental level, there's always a psychiatrist or a therapist there to give the officers an input on what went out, or what happened or what came out of the interview with the victim. She didn't do that. Instead, she came up there and gave a generalized observation or what she do and how she see rape victims. She didn't do that with Cassie. Therefore, her statement is without merit, which means she dropped the ball. She's been doing this for 30 years, and now once she decided to go do that. Later, she been in this for 30 years, and again, she didn't decide to interview Cassie. The prosecution team know this, yet they didn't have her interview Cassie. What they actually thought was she was going to say what she was going to say, as she said in over 60 times being on the stand. She say the same exact thing without interviewing any victim. She admitted to that. She also admitted that 60% of her revenue as a psychiatrist comes from the courts, because the courts call her. She has her own practice, but yet ever since for the last probably 20 years, she hasn't written anything when it deals with mental health issues. She hasn't written a book. She hasn't written a pamphlet. She hasn't did anything. And majority of her income comes from the courts, which means she gets up on the stand, she says what she will always remember she's saying, and then she has $6,000. Easy. She also admitted that while the prosecution team was getting their notes together, their legal notes together pertaining to the case, she was in the room, which she was called 6 times on different occasions to be included into that legal aspect, not medical, but legal aspect, to include her ideas and thoughts and what kind of medical words that they should use in their legal matters. She compromised the whole case. She admitted that on the stand. And this is why Alex Shapiro wants her testimony stricken from the record, because you never interviewed the victim. You're there to give your opinion on what you've seen by interviewing the victim, not what you have studied for 30 years, So that's pretty much the witnesses that's been getting smoked. You know, we can't even talk about the Punisher because the Punisher already admitted that Cassie called him, always called him. He always dealt with Cassie on that level. After calling him, he dealt with Cassie several times alone, having conversations. They even had sex, unprotected sex, numerous of times. They never got tested. He admitted he never got tested. He never asked Cassie to get tested, vice versa. He also admitted that, you know, she was willingly, she consented. So far, we haven't heard anything about Sean Diddy Combs putting a gun to her head, forcing her to have sex. We heard that Cassie eventually said that she didn't want to have sex. I mean, the freak offs, she enjoyed the freak off previously in their early relationships, but as time went on, it became too redundant. Like he wanted to do this every weekend, every other day, and you know, she was being worn out. Because she said she admitted that sometimes the freak offs happens 3 or 4 times. Excuse me, it'll happen from 3 or 4 days. You know, they'll be stuck in the hotel room. They'll be under ecstasy, Molly, and you know, for a person that used to be on that type of vibe, I don't do that no more. You can actually be up 3 or 4 days having sex because the drugs is a hyper drug. So you'll always be up. You'll always be moving around. You just have to get some sleep eventually because what happened, you could catch a stroke or a seizure. So I'm pretty sure they got their naps in within 3 or 4 days. And then they woke up again, got high again, and they continued. So we already heard about the drug use. We haven't heard any drug smuggling, no distribution. This is the RICO case that they're trying to put together. You know what I'm saying? That so far we haven't heard nobody being murdered, nobody being extorted. All we hear about is freak offs, drug use, astral glides, and baby oil in domestic violence. This is all we've been hearing. I don't know what's going on. I'm sure you don't know what's going on, but we trying to figure it out, right? All right. So the next witness they have coming up was a guy named George Kaplan. George Kaplan, he decided to work for Diddy from, I believe, 2010 to 2013. If I'm correct, if I got the date right, or the year right, excuse me. Diddy actually found him at Nickelodeon. You know, we already heard about Nickelodeon. And Diddy was on Nickelodeon, you know what I'm saying? But he's not being charged for that. He's not being charged for that. He's not being dragged for being on Nickelodeon. And Nickelodeon wasn't even dragged for all the pedophile stuff there. Can you imagine they had little kids playing with lotions on their face and they was in the office masturbating off of this? And y'all didn't drag them like you dragging Diddy? At least with Diddy, he's doing it with adults. You quiet over minors. That's interesting. And yet you say it's not about race. I guess maybe he didn't have the right complexion. I'm talking about Diddy. So this guy, George Kaplan, Caucasian, was working for Nickelodeon. He was an assistant executive. Excuse me, he was an assistant executive producer for an actual executive producer. Puffy liked they grind at the time, and he told them, yo, listen, I want you to be over here, because from the story, from what a lot of people were saying that worked around Diddy, especially this witness here that we're going to get into, George Kaplan, he says that Diddy loves people that's on their grind. Like if you're working hard, nonstop, he likes that. And that made me understand why he made making the band walk across the Brooklyn Bridge to go into Brooklyn to get him a cheesecake. Because how much you want this? Are you ready to put, because I'm about to invest money into you, a lot. I'm about to make calls, make some collections. Are you really want this? Let me see how these young kids are grinding. You go ahead and walk all the way over there and give me some cheesecake. You didn't have to walk. You could have took a cab. You know what I'm saying? But they decided to walk. That was on him. Me, personally, I would have took a cab, waited about a half an hour or an hour, and then came back like, yo, I did a long walk. I wasn't walking. I'm sorry. I'm grinding, but you ain't gonna make me grind like that. But they decided to do that on their own. They wasn't forced. You know what I'm saying? So this guy, he paints the picture that that's how Diddy is. You see him on the reality shows. He talks about it while he's on the scene. You see Diddy on the reality shows, how he's screaming on people that's not grinding, people that's lazy. And you see him really screaming because he's trying to motivate you. This guy that's testifying is saying that when you're around Diddy, you get so inspired to grind that you don't even want to sleep. It's his energy just rubs off on you. He makes you want to get up and do something. This is what this young brother is saying. So at the time, well, young man, I won't say young brother because he's a Caucasian, right? But at the time, like I said, he was working for Nickelodeon, and he snatched them up, snatched the executive director up, and the executive director elected his assistant to come along with him, who is George Kaplan, who was 23 years old at the time, and he was trying to make his way into Harvard Law School. He was trying to do his thing at the time at that school. So while he was there at Diddy, he decided to work under Diddy, right? Because Diddy decided now to separate the executive producer and the assistant executive producer because he liked the George grind. Young white kid, you know, he liked his grind. And George would testify that Diddy was always teaching him. He always told him this is like being in music at a record label learning while you're in Harvard Law, because he was doing both at the same time, right? And he said Diddy always sat him down and schooled him to everything he did. And he said it was numerous times that Diddy would threaten his job like a lot of other people. Example, he said at one time Diddy sent him to the supermarket to get him a PBA gallon of water. There wasn't any, but there was a 2.5 gallon of water, and he decided to buy that. When he came back, Diddy screamed on him. Said, I ain't tell you to buy that. In other words, he was trying to tell him, you got to pay attention and listen to what I say. You just wasting money. You went and bought a 2.5 gallon. I didn't tell you to buy that. You took it an opportunity to put yourself in the limelight or in the fire to make their own decision to buy what you wanted from me. And I didn't tell you to buy that. So what happens now if I put you in a certain position to do some type of executive work and you decide, nah, it's Combs out of wrong, and you do something else that caused the whole problem? So you got to pay attention. That's not what I asked you for. And he said it was numerous times that Diddy would threaten him with his job. Yo, if you don't do this, I'll fire you. You know, that was to motivate people at his job. You know, that's what I believe. I believe that Diddy was threatening people to do what he wanted them to do so they could get the job done. I mean, if I'm a billionaire and I'm working a multi-million-dollar company, and George at this time, he's executive producer for a whole lot. I'm talking about the liquor company, the music, everything that Diddy owned. He was an executive producer at this time now, because they said Diddy separated them, the executive producer and assistant executive producer. The assistant executive producer at Nickelodeon became Puffy's personal assistant, right? And you talking about the other guy that quit, that choked out the chef. Right? You talking about this guy, he's young, white, 23, fresh in college, fresh in the university, right? So he's being cross-examined, right, by the prosecution team, right? So what were some of the hotels that Puff would stay in around the country? He said when he was in Los Angeles, he would stay at the Continental, Mr. C, and the Beer Hotel. When he was in Miami, he would stay at the SOS, and when he stayed at the hotel in New York, he would stay at the Trump International. He would use the name Frank Black to check into the hotels. See, because as a personal assistant, his job now is like the other assistants who quit. Now he got to make sure that everything that Puffy needs in this hotel is there. Before he land, the assistant's already flying out. Because this is his job. This is his job. And it's interesting that the prosecution keep asking everyone their job, because if you're making this a RICO, you messing it up, because you asking everybody their position on the job. No, I'm not a hitman. No, I'm not the cleanup crew. No, I'm not the extortion man. You asking their positions and they telling you I'm an assistant, I'm a makeup artist. This is not a RICO case, man. Hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. This is not a RICO case. So he's telling you everything that he needs to do. While Puffy's over here, he flies out, he makes sure everything is there at the hotel, whether it's baby oil, whether it's Astroglide, whether it's drugs, whether it's anything that Puffy needs, he has to provide. And they don't want to say no because their job is on the line. They feel if I say no, without Puffy even forcing, I know this. I'm working with a multi-million dollar. I'm making over 6 figures a year now. If I tell this dude no, it's back to working at Wendy's and Western Beef. So you know what? I'm going to do what the hell he want to do. And this is why the prosecution is trying to make it into a RICO because of their illegal activities that these people willingly did without being forced. All right. So he said, the prosecutor said, why did he use Frank Black? George says, because Biggie's name was Frank White, which was the king of New York. So he used Frank Black. It is also a policy at all of Puffy businesses that on Biggie's birthday, everybody get paid, holiday off. They do not work on Biggie's birthday. My job also is to clean up the hotel rooms after Puff leave. He asked him, why you do that? He said, because I didn't want to, he said, because I wanted to make sure nothing was left around so the hotel staff couldn't come in and take pictures, and they tried to sell them online and jeopardize Mr. Cohn's reputation. I would also carry Puff's medicine bag, which was full of Advil, ketamine, Tylenol, and also he had ecstasy. See? So, in other words, all celebrities do this. They make sure they clean up their hotel room. They don't leave nothing around, whether it's drugs, whether it's anything, because if the staff get wind of Puffy being in that room and it looks the way it looks and they find extra drugs or whatever the case they find in there, they start taking pictures and then they go and start selling it to TMZ. Now, what happens if that happens and Puff see it online, guess who he's calling? He's calling his assistant. What the hell is this? Now your job is on the line. You have a job. Your job is to make sure everything is cleaned up in there. I go through that when we have a party and they say, well, you got to make sure you clean up everything in here. My situation is a bit different because this could cause me a place. Because now if they know I'm filthy, I'm not trustworthy, and I'm messy, you can't work in there. You have a responsibility. So you got to make sure your place is cleaned up afterwards. If Sean is in his hotel room, whether he's having freak offs or whatever he leave behind, my assistant supposed to come in there and make sure everything is clean. Because if they don't, then people start taking pictures. Then people want to start doing extortion. Yo, listen, if you don't give me this, I'm going to sell this to the newspaper. I'm going to sell this to the magazine. I'm going to sell it. You see what I'm saying? So that was his job. And it's interesting that he said his name was Frank Black because throughout this whole time for years, since Biggie got killed, he be going under the name Frank Black. All the hotel rooms that Cassie and everybody booked under, he wanted the name of Frank Black and she wanted the name Baby Girl or BG. Now, my question is, why is your son named Frank? She always wanted a baby with Puff. Why is her son named Frank? Nobody asked that question yet. If you so traumatized, like if I've been raped, I've been abused, I've been traumatized, and I hate the person that I was with, the last thing I'm gonna do is name my child after that abuser. Don't that make sense? But hey, nobody's saying nothing. That's what she did. So now Diddy teams gets the direct cross-examination to George Kaplan. Now, it's interesting too, hold on, before I get into that, right? Because throughout the case, throughout the cross-examination, they asked him about the rumors about an incident that happened twice to Cassie on a private jet and to Capricorn, who is the next witness we will hear about either later on today or tomorrow. And this was coming from Capricorn, which he's cross-examined on. He was saying that he came on a plane. The prosecutor was asking him. He came on a plane. Once he came on a private jet, it's 2 seats here, 2 seats here. He heard a lot of commotion. He heard the doors like kind of shaking in the back. Where it's a patron, like a patron, like a doorway, but it was closed. But you could see like the shadows, and you could see like it was, some people was having, what you could say, a fight or a disagreement, whatever you want to call it, a fight or domestic dispute, whatever the case, right? Pretty much he heard some noise. And it was told that when Cassie came, it was Cassie, and she was on the floor and she was trying to fight Puffy off of her. And Puffy was punching her all in the face, her breasts, her arms, and so forth. And they alleged that he was supposed to have seen this. And after everything was said and done, he was saying that nobody did anything. This was what they said, that he said nobody did anything. Everybody sat there. Everybody minded their business. Everybody decided to deal with it because everybody felt their job was on the line. They didn't want to miss. This was a perfect opportunity. And we talking about Puffy, like Puffy had never had a fall off year. So they were one of the biggest dudes in entertainment. They ain't trying to say anything. He said it was another incident. Well, allegedly they asked him, did he send you to the CVS to get medical supplies and everything? This is the cross-examination, direct cross-examination. And they said it was another incident, I believe in Miami, with Capricorn. Her and Puffy had words. Puffy attacked her and started throwing plastic decorative apples at her. He kept throwing it at her to the floor. She buckled to the floor. I don't know how plastic decorative apples can make you buckle to the floor, but that was the testimony, right? That was the testimony, and nobody did anything. And after that, he quit because he said he couldn't be working for a person like that, to see the abuse that was going on, the things that was going on. So he went to HRA and he put his walking papers 3 months ahead of time, right? This is what he said. That's what he said. Now, cross-examination now. Now you got cross-examination. So Diddy's lawyers now, they walk up, I explained, they walk up smooth to him. But you could tell from his testimony, and which I have gave you, he's really not trying to hurt Diddy. Like, he really loves Diddy. Like, this dude said on the stand, and I kind of breezed past a little bit because it was a little emotional. He came out 23. He watched Diddy on TV. He always admired Diddy. Then he got the funny chance to get chosen to go work for Diddy. He got a high-paid job than his previous job. He wasn't an assistant. Now he was the man. You know what I'm saying? He was getting 6 figures a year. Wow, he's working at Harvard. This is a dream come true. He's around all the celebrities. He around Jay-Z. He around Khaled. He around all these celebrities that's around Puff. He's around now. Now he's like, oh my God, I have stories for days. And Puff is grooming him in the entertainment world. Puff don't really care too much about his Harvard law stuff. He's mostly focusing on, I need you over here. So he's schooling him because he wants him to know the ins and outs, because you working for me. I don't want to hear no excuses. So now he's getting questioned by the defense. You didn't want to come here today, did you? Listen now. You didn't want to come here today, did you? George, no. The defense. You were forced to come here today by the government, right? He said yes. The defense. If it were your choice, you wouldn't be here today? George, 100%. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. The government forced my hand. Diddy's lawyer, you didn't approach the government? George, no, I did not approach the government. The government approached me. They asked him how many women Puffy had in his life that he know of. He said, well, before I get into that, backtrack real quick. Why didn't he want to come? Because he didn't have nothing to say. That's number one. Two, he got mad love for Puff. Puff took him out of a situation and put him in a better predicament. Today, he's 33 years old. When he was working for Puff, he was 23. And if you look at yourself when you used to be 23, you was a baby. Imagine being a megastar at 23 and you working for Puff, or you working for Patti LaBelle, you working for Mary. They got you in this position where you get 6 figures now. You're around all these celebrities. And they telling you, yo, he's a beautiful assistant. Everybody looking at you now like, oh, what kind of assistant is this? So you get your foot in the door. So he don't hate Puff. But why they forced him? They forced him because I don't want to get ahead of myself. They forced him because they gave him what you call a Interpol agreement, if I'm pronouncing it right. Interpol agreement. That is called immunity. That's snitch papers. Okay? This is what they don't tell you when it comes to the RICO. They hear CI and all that. This is called immunity, where the government is telling him, yo, listen, you was Puff assistant. We know Puff was buying drugs. We got it from the other witnesses. We know that other assistants and security was going out to buy drugs and bringing it back to Puff. You are a conspirator now. He don't know the law. He just listens to what they say. He like, oh shit, the Fed's coming at me. And then he see what's going on in the media. He's scared. He's scared. And the government know that they had to do this in order for him to testify. So they said, we're going to give you immunity though. But if you don't testify, we're not giving you immunity, and we're going to charge you to the fullest extent. Now he's scared. He got his life together. He like, what? I'm going to be sitting next to Diddy. All right, you know what? I'm going to do it. This is what he means by they forced him. Look what he says. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that share. This is what he says. He said, he said, I did not approach the government. No, okay. Okay. He said Puffy had an extra level because they asked him about the Cassie fight on the plane in Gina, right? Excuse me, that was the one that was hit with apples. I'm sorry, went ahead of myself. Not Capricorn, it was Gina, the model, the supermodel that Diddy was dating, right? Okay. So they asked him about these rooms and everything. He said Puff had an extra level and an extra gauge of patience. Or no, they start talking about his girlfriends, right? He said he had an extra level and extra gauge of patience for Kim Porter that he didn't have for Cassie. This is the prosecution's witness. This is the prosecution's witness. And Gina or any of his other girlfriends. So all his other girlfriends was top line except for Cassie. What did Diddy see that didn't make her top line? It couldn't be the freak-offs because we learned that even Kim participated in the freak-offs. Oh, man, wait, hold on now. We coming to it, baby. We coming to it. Oh, yeah, I know about that. Told you, tune in, tell a friend to log in. You're going to get the scoop over here. Look now. He said he had an extra respect for Kim Porter. Made him happy more than Cassie or Gina. And you notice it's true because even when Kim was saying things about Diddy, he never responded. Even when the divorce and all that child support, whatever came, he never responded. He always kept it quiet when it came to Kim. He never defecated on Kim. He never said nothing bad about Kim, if you notice that. I mean, he cheated on her, we know that. But that's about it, right? All right. So he said also I set up hotels room for him and Kim Porter. And Baby O would be present. So it's safe to say, right, that baby oil is definitely needed in them hotel rooms when it's for Kim and Diddy. What does that say? He said it. I set up the hotel rooms for him and Kim and with baby oil. So Kim was having the freak offs too. But we ain't gonna drag Kim into this because Kim is not here. You know, they ain't try to get his Kim family members to co-sign because, you know, you don't want to ruffle the dad and his daughters are sitting there. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to hear their parents is doing that, you know. But I'm letting you know, Kim was part of the freak offs. She probably just wasn't into it like how Diddy was, because in the lifestyle, in the swinger life, you got couples that come there that one of the couples is really not into it, but they just there because either they man into it, which is more of that type of situation, or the female is into it, but not the guy. She's just trying to turn him out to it so she don't have to keep cheating on him. That's how that life goes. You know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming that, like he said, he had more respect for all of them because they wasn't ready to do the certain things that Cassie was ready to do. They already had their career solidified. Cassie was trying to do what she wanted to do to be in that position. She said it herself in her testimony. She said, I had to do it because if I didn't do it, he was going to get other people to do it. So she was trying to solidify her spot, and I respect it. Don't make you nasty. Don't make you a hoe, and don't make you any of that. I'm in that lifestyle. Everybody got fetishes. You can't call a hoe or nothing. Greedy, money hungry? Okay, I can see that. But nasty and all that weird? Nah, everybody got a different vice. Some of y'all vices is tongue kissing. Some people don't tongue kiss. They don't like swapping saliva, but you do. Does that seem nasty to you? What if I just say, okay, lay down and let me spit in your mouth while we having sex? You wouldn't like that. But what about tongue kissing? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Am I right? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Now look. So he said, also, Baby O would also be present. He said, when Puff was at the hotels, I looked at it as if it, because they asked him as well, like why you didn't intervene? You saw all of this going on. You saw all of this going on. Why you didn't intervene? Yes, I love all that. All right, boss lady, I see it. All right. But so they asked him, why didn't you stop all of this? You've seen all this abuse. You saw all of this or heard about all this. Why didn't you stop? This is what he had to say. He said, I looked at it as it's his personal time, his personal business, and I wasn't on work time. Because he worked from a whole week. He worked from like 80 to 100 hours a week. So he's constantly around puffing at least 19 hours, 12 hours a day. So when it's time for him to get off and go home, he's like, woof, man, I'm relaxing. I am out. Whatever this man doing, he doing. I ain't got no problems with that. You see, they trying to make it into a RICO. Why you ain't help? You see what the defense lined it up? I didn't want to get, it's his personal time. It's not my job. That's the RICO over. Well, that's the RICO. The RICO's gone. Everybody said the same thing. Yo, I just said that because I felt threatened for my job. It's no RICO. They all blew their cake. This is why I said, man, yo, they stretching. They are so stretching for this case. Like they are getting anybody and everybody. This guy right here just testified that the government stepped to him. They forced him. They forced him. Why they ain't called Gene Deal? He flew out. He outside the courthouses and all that talking about. I was going to see if they was going to call me. They wasn't going to call you. They know how to contact you. They got private investigators. All these other people flying out there because they want that attention. They want to get interviews because you get paid to be on TMZ. You get paid to be on DJ Vlad. So all these people now, they feel like they got something to say. What do you mean? Let's get to the next witness. Let's get to the witness. Hold up. The prosecution team also says, because I want to end it on this, they asked him, George, they said, if you had a chance, you wouldn't come here. He said, man, I wouldn't have never came here. They asked him, the defense team, you don't want to testify against Puffy? George, no, I don't. We said, no, I don't. They forced his hand. Why? Because they don't have a case. Everything I'm telling you is coming directly from court. You hear the prosecution and you hear the defense, what gives you the opportunity to make your own decision. None of that 4 or 5 paragraph lines that you see on these fake Facebook posts with no name in the face, and it comes from some news network, and you get a little bit, and they got 2.5K comments, and you got a bunch of women that's talking about Diddy should get life for a case that doesn't even match the charges. This is who we are. We don't listen to that. No, I'm not hating. I'm not saying you don't go on nobody else's podcast, but I'm talking about those little posters you see. But anybody else podcast you want to listen to, yo, go right ahead. I'm not a hater. But just be careful what you're listening to. Ask yourself, are they out there listening to it? Do they got people that's out there? Because I got people out there listening. That's how I'm getting all the news. Now look, this one is not, I don't even have, I could just freestyle this one. I ain't even had to write it down because it was such a shame. The next witness, her name is Mayra Morales. Spanish lady, Hispanic woman, person of color. She decided to testify against Diddy. And she hasn't been around Diddy and Cassie for over 10 years. I'm gonna let you think about that one for a minute. 10 years, she hasn't been around them. And Cassie and Puffy been around them. I mean, Cassie and Puffy relationship started 2008 and ended 2018. She hasn't seen Puffy or Cassie for 10 years. She was Cassie's makeup artist, right? She was Cassie's makeup artist. So she was always around Cassie because she was like a personal assistant. Wherever she went, she needed her makeup artist, especially she going to all these red carpets, doing all these camera flashes for the whole world to see why she's claimed that she was being held hostage in a relationship, right? So this lady says in times she saw Cassie was assaulted. She was beat up badly by Sean. She saw Puffy beat her up. She had bruises. She had a black eye. She had a busted lip. And Cassie came to this lady's house, I believe she said, right? Came to his house and she saw the bruises and heard what happened. And instead of her calling the police, she decided to call her own personal doctor. Puffy's defense asked her, why you ain't call the police? Like there was an incident. She already told the prosecution team and everybody else what happened. You know, Puffy put hands on Cassie, but the defense is asking why you didn't call the police. She said she didn't want to get involved because Puffy was a very powerful man. She also said this on what's that, Dateline? Yeah, Dateline. She said this on various other media outlets. So Puffy's powerful. A lot of people were saying that. They was afraid. He has a lot of money. He knows a lot of people. So they was afraid to come out, but they're coming out now as if it makes them safe that Puffy's in jail. The question should be, well, if your head mafia boss was in jail, will you still testify? They probably say no because we know he got goons. So why you decide to tell on Puffy now if you saying he got all these goons? It's all about money. Look at her. Check her out. Right? So The defense, they calm down. Because she was only up there on the stand for like 20 minutes. She had really nothing else to say. See, this is the prosecution job. They want to keep painting domestic violence to make y'all so biased towards him, to make him look like an animal. That's cool, but we're not talking about domestic violence. We're talking about a federal RICO case. We're talking about sex trafficking and prostitution. We're talking about arson. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about charges that the mafia and the cartel get. Not a CEO, rapper, and producer, and mogul, and entrepreneur, you know what I'm saying? That gets legal money and pay taxes. You know what I'm saying? So I've never seen a mafia head get locked up who pays taxes, but I guess this is the first time for everything, right? So they question her now. To say, you seen Puffy abuse Cassie and you called the doctor and everything? And she said, yes, I've seen it numerous occasions. And, you know, Puffy's an animal and I'm afraid for my life and everything. And he even threatened me and everything. This is what she was saying, right? So the defense team asked her, he said, did you get paid for all your interviews? Any of your interviews? She said, she started to get uncomfortable now. She said, no. She said, when was the last time you seen Puffy? And she said, over 10 years ago. So she's talking about something she knew 10 years ago, which means she totally forgot about all this situation went on about her life, right? But she decided to talk about the case 10 months after Cassie's lawsuit, just like Dawn. So now she started to go make interviews. The defense asked her, you have made 8 interviews. You went to CNN, Dateline, Eyewitness, what was that? Eyewitness News, I believe. You went to TMZ. You went to a whole lot of news outlets. Did you get paid? She said, no, I didn't get paid. So, okay, you didn't get paid. He asked her, did you receive any kickback while being interviewed? She said, no, I wasn't doing any of that. Defense said, you sure about that? She said, yeah, you know how they do, right? Let me refresh your memory. And they gave her the pad and they told her, when you read this, can you look up at me? After being interviewed with one of the news outlets, didn't you or did you not get reimbursed for your interview of $250? She said, oh, yeah, I missed that one. Yeah, I'm sorry. You missed that one, huh? You forgot that you got reimbursed out of all those interviews. And out of all those interviews, have you not always talked about how you made Cassie look for her dress house because you were her stylist? And if it wasn't for you, Cassie wouldn't be looking like that. She started getting uncomfortable. See, what she was doing was she was promoting her own brand on these TV networks. Yeah, they wasn't giving her no money because she had nothing to tell. That's why she didn't get no money. She wasn't getting. Now, if it was Cassie or the assistant saying, we going to make an interview, they would get paid top dollar. Why you think they ain't call no Gene Deal? Why you ain't think they ain't call no Jaguar? Gene Deal always talk, and I don't know, I'm always talking about this dude Gene Deal on his show, but every time I turn around on YouTube, he's there talking like he was around him last week. You talking about something that happened when Mace was still signed. You going back to the early 2000s. Cassie was not even in the mix then. Cassie was still a teenager, like 13, 14 years old. So why you talking? This is why they not calling her. But they call Myra. And she didn't have nothing to say. It made her look greedy and hungry. Because you talking about something that you have no clue about, talking about you help Cassie. And they asked her, they said, did Puffy tell you to make these interviews? She said, no. Does Puffy know about these interviews that you was planning to make? She said, no. She said, did Cassie tell you about these interviews and when to make them? Or gave you the green light to make them? She said, no. So you decided to make this all by yourself, for yourself, so you could get money. So you could get recognition. So you could get recognition on your resume as a stylist for Cassie. So other people could look at Cassie pictures like, oh, that's the one that's been hooking up. Yo, let's call her. That's all she came up there with. They demolished her. They demolished her. Just like Alex Shapiro demolished the forensic psychologist. They put that motion in. She was, after she got off the stand, they put the motion in. Get rid of those psychiatrists. Because again, you know nothing. You just generalize everything you said. Go on my last show. It sounds so good. What she was saying on the stand. And I'm going to say, to be honest, I believe she was right on the things when it comes to the phases on, when it comes to domestic violence. For her to incorporate everything she said pertaining to Cassie, no. As the gods and the nation of gods of earth said, emphatically now cipher. No. You got to interview her. She's a victim. You got to find what phase she falls under. But you know why she couldn't do it? Because Cassie consented throughout the whole time. Now, one time, if she would have actually interviewed Cassie, she would show that Cassie was this money hungry. Yes, I'm not saying that she wasn't abused and she didn't want to get away from her abuser. She didn't want to get away from her abuser. She wanted to get away from the abuse, not her abuser. Because I know plenty of times she sat back and she said to herself, yo, I'm tired of this. I want to get out of here. But my career is shot. My career is over. I spent too much time out the game from singing. Nobody's going to take me serious. Everybody know I'm freaking off for Puff. Everybody know I'm Puff Shorty. And even if I try to do something alone, Puff going to put the call in and block me. I already spent all my money. I ain't say nothing because I'm so used to having this dude spend everything because I was enjoying his money. As long as he paying, I'm spending it. And it backfired. It backfired because now she put herself in a position where she don't have a life without Puffy. She put herself in that position. She dealt with the fame and the money. Like I said in my last show, imagine you coming from the hood with nothing, talking about you promising career, whatever. And then you get with a multi-billionaire. And now you flying all over the world in a private jet. Like you could go to Jamaica in a couple of hours, then leave Jamaica, then go to Trinidad in the next 2 hours, then leave Trinidad, then go to Miami in the next 2 hours, all in one day. Or less than 24 hours. That's what kind of life she was living. Coming out on the red carpet, shaking hands with Diana Ross. She ain't trying to get that up. In a private jet where there's private showers, where there's a bed where you can watch a flat screen TV. You think she was trying to get that up because he was slapping her around? Yeah, all right. I ain't even giving that up if my wife slapping me around. No, I'm just saying. She put herself in that position. And that's all the defense is making it seem. They're not saying that Diddy's innocent for domestic violence. They're saying he's not innocent for the assault. They know that. We all saw the videotape, and that's why the prosecution team decided to use that first when they opened a statement. Yo, look what he did. All right, call the cops for domestic violence. We talking about a RICO case here. You pulling out a videotape of a man beating a woman up. Who does that? Who does that? And this is why I believe he's going to walk on that case. Because they trying. They trying to put a case together that they really don't have. And I'm not saying, I call them the dream team, Diddy's team, I give them their props. And I want to say that they smoking the prosecution team, but I'm going to keep it real. It really wasn't a hard job. It wasn't like they actually really did their thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, they did their thing. But the questions they had, it was a question that if the answer came, you buried yourself. That's how it was. Because every time Cassie would say, yeah, he hit me, he did this, and he took this and he took that, and they asked her, did you fly to Miami to see so-and-so? Yes. Did you fly to Connecticut to go see your mother? Yes. Did you have an apartment in New York and LA where you can always go every time you wanted to? Yes. then you had time to leave. He wasn't holding you hostage. You can't even say that because he had me on a record contract deal that was bad. Go get you a lawyer and go sue. Or go do what the Locks did. Free the Locks campaign. They did a whole mixtape tour and gave Puffy bad press. They forced Puffy to let them go. So why you ain't do that? Why you ain't get a lawyer? You can get a retainer. You cash, you a celebrity. You don't got to pay now. They know who you is. They know you good for it. But they going to get you out your contract. She didn't do that because she was in love with that man and she was in love with the things that he was giving her. She was in love with that life. You know, and it's sad because she traded her happiness for that life. I don't know if she happy now. She probably is happy with the man she with and in love, but happy in life, I don't know, man, because right now she's getting all this backlash with the urine thing, and now she's really getting backlash where all of the stuff that's coming out, they making her look like a greedy liar. You know what I'm saying? Because you didn't come out, because check it, her intentions wasn't to bury Puff. They came out. First of all, let me tell you something. The prosecution team, they knocked on everybody's door. None of these people came and said, we want to press charges. They came and said, listen, we need you to press charges. We got you. We want you to say this. We want you to say that. They prepare you before you get on the stand. The other two assistants, we're going to give y'all immunity. They forced them to testify. Kid Cudi, he got subpoena. Subpoena means you're forced to come. If you do not come, then that means it's an obstruction of justice and you will be arrested. You can get a year, 6 months to a year in federal penitentiary for that. So these people felt, I have to come, I have to testify over some stuff I don't even want to testify about. So every time they get on the stand, they say what the prosecutor want, and then here comes the defense. And they leave themselves open, and defense they tear it up. They tear to the point that the prosecution always got to say, objection, sidebar, we got to talk, Your Honor, sidebar. This is the last witness they got. The lady that was doing interviews for not DJ Vlad, for TMZ and all these other networks. They doing the interview. Right now, you go up there, Gene Dale doing interviews about the case. You go on YouTube, you see Albie Shaw doing interviews about the case. Wow, you're not even in the fold. What y'all got to really say? Was you in the room? Did you pull it out of Cassie's mouth and put it in your mouth? So then you don't got nothing to say. And that's another thing. I can't understand why so many grown men is worried about this Tootsie Roll thing that's going on out there and Diddy sleeping with men and all this. I never seen straight men are so concerned on where another man's penis is going. Why you care? Why you care if he's sleeping with men? Why is that such big news? We got a whole industry full of gay men like Tyler Perry. This ain't new. So why are we running with it? Yo, he got a Tootsie Roll. You worried about the size of a man's penis? I thought you straight, brother. Get your life together. I can understand why the women is making jokes of it. But my thing is, you could talk about how small his penis is, but his bank account is real bigger. His bank account make it looks 10 inches. So obviously, because the women he got don't look like the women you got, brother. And that's Tootsie Roll right there for you. You know what I mean? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, man. You know, but that's about it. I'm gonna do some more research. You know what I'm saying? See what they saying in that courthouse, because I know today, Capricorn, one of Diddy's assistants, is supposed to take the stand. Only thing I know she's gonna talk about is the beatings with Cassie and her getting hit with plastic apples, and then her saying, "No, I didn't call the police. No, I didn't press charges." That's what we gonna hear. And they running out. Look, this is the 10th day. It's supposed to be going on for 2 weeks. No, the trial they said supposed to be going on in 6 weeks. So far, it's 10th. This is the 10th day. And this, everything I just said, this is all the defense got. I mean, this is all the prosecution got. 10th day? We should be hearing about the smuggling. We should be hearing about the women on the trucks getting smuggled from Miami to El Salvador. The sex trafficking, we should be hearing about that. We should be hearing about how his security team is really his hit team and stomping in the restaurants and other establishments and getting it extorting money. We should be hearing about the security team snatching people up who ain't paying, putting them in the trunk of the car and they disappear. This is RICO. This is what Big U was all being sentenced for. See, we heard about Big U. See, we hearing about Nipsey Hussle getting murdered, Ray Sean Williams getting murdered, PNB Rock not checking in, getting murdered. See, this is all a RICO now. We hearing about if you don't check in, we gonna check your equipment in, which means you gotta pay in order to work. See, this is RICO. You getting money from your criminal activity. What we hearing about baby oils and astroglides and anal sex and raw sex? What is going on? Yo, man, look, y'all be good, man. This is the end of my show. So I'm gonna tune in again. I don't know, probably not tonight. I got some things to do. I gotta go out tonight. So hopefully, it'll definitely be tomorrow as I get y'all more in scoop on this. With that being said, peace and blessings. Y'all have a good day. Y'all have a good day.